In this episode, we say goodbye to Canada and our magical summer adventure. It's time to make some miles, and when you choose to travel as far and as often as we do, the consequence is that we must keep moving. It's already past mid-September, and as sailors, we are bound to the cycle of the seasons. Thankfully, though our passage to Cape Cod is challenging, we are rewarded towards the end of our journey with a beautiful sail into Newport on the most glorious fall afternoon.
Alrighty folks, it's time for us to go. The weather has finally shifted around. The stiff southwesterly that we had when we came to this cove has switched to the west and going a little north-northwest now. And that's a decent sailing angle to head out towards Cape Cod. We expect to be out at sea for about 2 days, maybe a little less than 48 hours. So we're leaving, it's now 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and hopefully we'll be in Wednesday evening in Provincetown, Cape Cod. Get our systems booted up and
let's do this thing.
Let's go. Raise the maid in here so it's nice and calm. Yeah. Leaving our anchorage, Cape Island. Wow, the boat feels so much lighter. That bottom cleaned, going 3 knots, just main, barely trimmed. 7 knots of wind. Gorgeous, eh?
So pretty here.
How do you feel about leaving Canada?
Not too good about that.
you liked it here, huh?
Yeah, I love it here. But we'll be back.
Yeah, I think next summer.
Yeah.
How do you feel about a 2-day sailing coming up?
Pretty good.
You feel like we got back used to it?
Yeah.
It was the first 2 days were a little tough leaving the lake full of those calm waters, but
oh, I love the lake sailing.
I wonder if we're gonna be back in our offshore shape now.
Yeah. No, I'm ready for it.
We're sailing out of our anchorage, and we're gonna have to jibe around in order to start heading out to sea and head west. So I am getting the boom brake line on. This line basically just slows the boom down for a jibe, so instead of having to sheet it way in, this acts as a brake, and it lets me jibe hands-free. So I'm just tightening that up. You see the boom coming down? That little black drum there, that's creating friction inside there. And when we head more to the right and jibe through, it's gonna slowly bring it across. So we're gonna jibe the boat to go south now, so basically the stern has to pass through the wind and the main comes thundering over. But we have the boom brake on, so it should be good. Here we go. Degrees over this way. Starting to turn to starboard. Here she comes, jibe ho. We're doing 7 knots.
Nice.
That's way better. That hull is really dirty.
Yeah, those muscles are slowing us down.
Unfortunately, I have to go a little more upwind, which sucks. How much more centerboard down? Our boat's equipped with a centerboard rather than a full keel. We love it because we only draw 4'2", so in places like the Bahamas, when we're exploring, we go way up close to shore and go to anchorages where other boats can't. As we're starting to point a little bit upwind, we're about 60 to 70 degrees apparent. I'm going to lower the board down. This is the board control. It's basically a wire winch inside this locker. And I'm going to put it down a few turns to help us grab the water a little better and not make leeway. So far today we've covered 36 miles. We've been underway for 5.5 hours, so that's a 6.57 knot average. So we're making good speed today.
Great speed.
Yeah, it's time for me to take my off watch here. So I'm just gonna download some information on Grace so she knows what she's looking for, because she's been reading a book and relaxing, so.
We're switching off.
Switching off, yeah, I'm gonna get a couple hours sleep here.
Tired, honey?
Yeah, it's good. Getting a little tired. I was up early this morning. We're keeping the boat between 40 and 45 apparent. So the wind's gonna start clocking. It's coming out of about 300 degrees right now as we start coming behind the boat. So as the wind shifts, it can start heading more on a westerly course as opposed to a southerly course. There's been a lot of lobster traps, so we have to poke your head out more frequently. And also watch the radar. The radar is on a much closer range than we usually use. Lobster traps up here actually have radar reflectors on top of them. Okay. But I was having trouble when I was on, we usually do like a 6 to 8 mile range looking for boats and ships. But I'm actually having on a much closer range trying to pick up the radar on reflectors on these pods right now. Good morning. It's about 9 a.m. Just kind of waking up from the night. Running a generator, put a little amps in the battery bank. It's not particularly sunny, so solar's not going to do much. But the wind finally clocked around, so we're not heeled over nearly as much and not going dead upwind like we were. Grace is still passed out, having a nice snooze. The wind is now 86 instead of 39, 38, and we're still making good speed. It has us arriving in Provincetown about 5:30 in the morning tomorrow. It's been a pretty interesting day. Conditions have been generally pretty fast, but right now we're in some crazy steep waves. So I took in a little bit of sail. It was actually funny because predict wind actually showed going from a 10-second period to a 3.5-second period, which normally isn't that accurate. So there must be some sort of anomaly here of currents or bottom that would cause this. Yeah, so it's fairly accurate, and we're hanging on and hoping the model's right, and it's gone in about an hour. So for those of you that aren't familiar with what the period of a wave is, it's basically, that would be a short period. That clinking you hear of the coffee pot going nuts in there, that's a short period. But basically what it is the period is the time between the top of the wave, which is the peak, and the bottom of the wave, which is the trough, and it measures essentially the steepness of the wave. So we've experienced, we're doing transatlantics, where the wave period is very long, and you might be in 20-foot waves, and it sounds like they're big waves, but this is like a gentle hill that you're rolling up and down. Whereas right now, we're only in about a meter or a meter and a half wave, but they're 3.5 seconds apart, and we're just getting rocked around and basically body checked. There we go, see, like that. We're hoping this settles down soon. But yeah, so that's what the period of a wave is, and we're living it right now.
It's about 6 o'clock on day 2 of our passage to Provincetown, and it's been a rough trip. It's been a lot of steep waves, had some autopilot issues, and things are starting to flatten out more now, which is good, but we're tired from this one. Right now, the ETA for getting into Provincetown is 8 tomorrow morning. I'm really looking forward to that. We might continue on and try and get through Cape Cod Canal, depending on how we do overnight tonight. So if we can get a little more sleep and things are flatter, then I think we're going to possibly try to get through Cape Cod Canal and just keep making miles here. And then if not, we'll hang out in Provincetown, drop the anchor, try and get some sleep and rest.
Dinner, day 2. Still eating leftover bolognese that we made. Booyah.
71.7 miles left. Not bad. I'm hungry.
Nice and empty here.
Yeah, we can clean the
time at the zoo.
It's feeding time at the zoo.
Grace is anxiously awaiting her trough of pasta. I guess tonight we have to watch out for fishing traffic again. It pretty much fizzled out last night, but I think we're kind of right north of the George's Bank area, where all those like those tuna fishermen are, like wicked tuna. Wicked tuna, like that George's Bank area. So I imagine it's a pretty active commercial fishery here. So we'll have to be on the lookout tonight, especially as we are now within 70 miles of shore and approaching fast 7 knots. So we just set up the downwind pole. The wind has continued to clock around more behind us, and we started hearing the jib luffing. So basically when we head too far downwind, the jib starts getting blocked by the mainsail, So we got the pole set up on the opposite side of the boat to run wing on wing. We did that before anyone's off watch started. Both Grace and I were awake. So now the pole is set up, and this way if one of us sleep, we could just pull out the sail instead of having to go on deck and deal with that while we're all half asleep. So now we should be set for the night. We're still doing 7 knots, and it's now about 110 apparent, but it was dipping to 140, 150, and we're starting to get blanketed. So us and our buddy Big Bear, we've been racing for the last 2 days to see who could get here first. And now we're in the unfortunate position where we're too early. So now we're racing to see who could go slower. He's going 3.79. We are going 3.7. Somehow we got here really fast, and the tide does not turn until around noon. So we're trying to avoid getting this Cape Cod Canal.
The Cape Cod Canal is an artificial waterway which allows boats to avoid going all the way around the eastern side of Massachusetts, a 135-mile trip. The canal is 7 miles long and connects Cape Cod Bay in the north to Buzzards Bay in the south.
We have a little tiny bit of a blade out, like just a little bit unrolled off of our furler. We're still making over 4 knots. I think it's mostly the sea state. It's a decent sized wave here, and we're just kind of surfing along. Yeah, I think we're gonna wind up fighting the tide a little bit.
The current inside the canal can reach 5.2 miles per hour, which is why we're trying to slow down.
Man, are we getting tossed around by this wind against tide here. I think I'm just gonna try to run the canal. I've had about enough of this rocking and rolling. Big one. Hold on. Hold on, honey pie. Calming down.
Want to tell people why we're only going 2.7?
We timed the curve wrong on this. Just the way it worked out at our arrival time to Cape Cod, we would have had to wait probably another 3 or 4 hours for the tide to flip, maybe 2. And we just couldn't slow the boat down in Cape Cod Bay. We had no sail up. We were still doing 4 or 5 knots surfing down the waves. And it was getting so uncomfortable that we just said, screw it, let's go in the canal. There's just no waves in here. But it's gonna be a long passage. We're only doing like 2 or 3 knots, so yeah, whatever. We got time. Just getting out of the way of this tanker. He asked me twice. I wasn't going over fast enough for the first time. But he's, to be fair, he is overtaking us fairly quickly.
Where is this guy?
Right there.
He's a pretty big tanker. Wow.
That's in the wake of the tanker.
Huh.
That's so cool. You know, fun if you get up on the surf on that, but just go for so long.
You're right.
Couldn't wait.
Damn tankers.
I think they own the place. I guess they kind of do,
They kind of do.
He's much bigger. So we completed our transit of the Cape Cod Canal. It was relatively uneventful, -1 tanker calling us. The tide wasn't as bad as expected. I was expecting to be fighting 2.5 to 3 knots. I think we still managed to average like 3.7 or 3.8 through there. So not terrible going at the complete wrong time. I wouldn't advise doing that, but just the timing of this passage. I don't think I've heard of many people sailing straight from Nova Scotia to Rhode Island, so I guess that's something different that we did. We're having beautiful downwind sailing of small waves. True winds like 20 to 25, and we have just a pulled out jib. Oh, look who decided to pop her head up. What are you after? Woo! 8 knots. Yeah, it's beautiful downwind sailing. Yeah, that's what the sea state looks like. I've been hanging out in this little nook. Got the heat from down below. You can see through the Dodger. Little office here with my handheld radio, autopilot remote.
Tonight we're dropping the hook just outside of the end of the canal. We're tired after 3 days of travel, so it's time for rest before we carry on towards Newport tomorrow.
Grace is busily editing down below, so I didn't want to disturb her, so I got the boat underway, no motor. It's a beautiful light air day today. Got our sails up, and we're doing a 30-mile run down to Newport today. Beautiful, beautiful fall day here. And now I'm gonna go try to catch my buddy. Coming for you, Big Bear. Say hi, honey. So he's getting his code 0 out. I will probably get our ASIM up shortly. Drop the main.
Pull?
Yep.
I have to winch it.
Got his main and code 0. We came from the carrier main of the Spinnaker. It's getting blanketed.
Yeah. What to do?
Definitely got more sail area right now.
What to do besides?
Buy a code 0. So we are having a beautiful sail today. We are going wing on wing of our pulled out headsail and a kite. We are going dead downwind, and we're basically matching wind speed. Right now our speed is 5 and about 5 knots of wind. Fun, pretty good sailing. We'll be in Newport probably by 5 or 6 o'clock tonight.
Definitely not used to anchoring in a place with all these boats.
No. I think dragging. I think we might be dragging here.
I think it just grabbed.
Yeah, I saw it go.
But I do think it dragged a smidge, maybe. Not used to anchoring in a place with so many boats and or restrictions on where we can anchor.
I guess 130 feet is quite a lot, right?
We're gonna have to get used to a lot of things though, like mansions and lots of food options.